Hey there, Mad Catters. Welcome back to another Onesie Tuesday. So we've all been off the ice at least for a month now, and I've been receiving lots of requests and questions regarding inline skates. So let's get to it. So skaters, what we're really talking about here is shoe shopping. And as you know, shopping always comes with its challenges. We are usually looking for a pretty good fit, but we cannot help but go for a certain look. And as we all know, coaches, anytime you can't get your skaters to hold fit and functionality above the look, ooh, rhinestones, you end up suffering because now, instead of coaching technique, you're constantly trying to fight the equipment. Ooh, B-52s, they're back. So the good news is with inline skates, just like with your ice skates, you get what you pay for. The higher the price, the better the quality. But if you decide to go for the look instead, by the time you put your ice skates back on, you're gonna feel like you're wearing someone else's shoes. I have been skating in inline skates for over 30 years now to supplement all of my ice training. I hear the pick frames are wonderful, but if you can't find those because there's such a shortage right now, I'm going to help you get a better understanding of what to look for in a regular inline brand. I have always worn rollerblade brand. They tend to be stronger for me. They have a much closer skate feel to begin with, and usually for the figure skaters, that's what I'm recommending. Hockey skaters are very lucky. Let's take a look. So many of the hockey brands out there are making inline skates that mimic their ice line. This is a Bauer Vapor Agility, and it's quite adjustable. The chassis underneath will adjust so that you can rocker your wheels. No matter what kind of skate you do get, rockering is critical. If you have all four wheels rolling at the same time, all touching the ground, that's going to act a lot more like a speed skate. It's going to be a little harder to actually create your turns. So what we do, if your skate has the adjustment within the chassis, you will see that the center two wheels can be slightly lowered. The front two wheels can be slightly moved out or in, depending on how much running length you want. And by rockering them, by putting these wheels lower, you're on the front two wheels, the middle two wheels, or the back two wheels. And it's such a slight amount that you're not going to really feel that. It just feels like the rockering of your ice blade. So when you lay it on edge, you more easily will take the corners. If you leave all four on the floor, every time you try to take a curve, you're going to be straining the knees and ankles quite a bit. There's a lot more torque put on them. And when you do crossovers, the skates just keep shooting straight out of the circle. They don't really want to come around with you at all. This would be one of my current rollerblade brand Twister inline skates. What's important to see about these, if you're looking for any brand at all, it's pretty critical to get an overlap here on the tongue. You can see that the plastic is not just the tongue itself exposed, but there's an overlap here of two plastic pieces before I finish, whether it's a buckle or a lace situation, doesn't matter. We have a ratchet system here on this boot. That overlap in the front will keep the tongue of the boot from just endlessly falling away. And remember, we talked before about protecting that Achilles tendon. It's critical to have some support up here. This one happens to have lacing halfway and the buckle for the top. This has always been my favorite design personally. I had the original Lightning TRS from Rollerblade when that came out. So I have always made all of my equipment fit like my figure skating boots. And even my hockey skates, which have the same heel height, and they also have the same general lasting where it's bigger and wider in the front and the narrower in the heel. For me, CCM is a great brand for that. Bauer tends to be a little more narrow all the way through. And on the inside, the toe height that you see in the hockey skate is higher than the toe box in my figure skate. This is just to protect you from the puck. It's not part of the strong fit. Where with the figure skate, it slopes down to a lower volume fit, and that allows it to hug on top of the toes, so every motion your foot could possibly make is meaningful. So I tell my hockey skaters, if you want to feel more accurate with any of your footwork when you're skating in your hockey skates, take up that space that's on top of the toes. Inside your sock, you can take a nice little piece of foam, put it on top of your foot, in the sock, so when you put the skate on, it'll still go in without rolling back. And that slight pressure on top, it's amazing how more accurately you can skate. Your toes are not waving around trying to work. That's why when we wear skates that are too small and your toes start curling back, they actually find that ceiling. And a lot of kids will notice that when their skates are really too small, their skating feels amazing. However, when they go to a skate that actually fits so their toes can work properly, they feel like they're all over the place. That's when that little pad comes in very handy. And in the hockey skate, I take this part, which is also meant to only protect you from the puck, and I go ahead and break it down because it can be there, but it doesn't have to be rigid. And when it is rigid, it makes it very hard to actually point your toe at the end of any push. So again, I tell my hockey skaters, if you're not able to get the full toe snap that you're looking for, break that down. They have yet to really make a rollerblade shell that works like an ice dance stay, which is what I prefer, because again, when I'm jumping, I also want to be able to point my toe much harder to launch off, and I love to land with my pointed toe. So I like having the back of the boot allow me to do that a little bit. Sometimes we get back here with a grinder and take this down just a little bit so that you can point your toe harder. And if you go a little bit at a time, it's not going to affect the boot integrity at all. You just want to make sure you don't go beyond what you're actually used to in your figure skate. So let's talk about ramp angle versus heel height. Ramp angle would be how high your heel comes up when your foot is still in its natural position. Heel height is when it's bending at the ball of the foot, the ankle joint, and the heel is being raised. It's two different ways to raise the heel, and it affects the arch differently depending on what you're doing. So, inline skate, this liner comes out. And if I need to bring my ramp angle up in order to match my figure skate, I'm going to take foam padding, pieces of insole, anything you need, and make a ramp. Thicker in the back, smaller in the front. And that way I can bring up the entire heel so I don't feel like I'm sinking back too much. So if you need to raise just the heel height, I would do that inside the boot. Pull out the little footbed liner that it comes with, and underneath you can go ahead and put whatever pieces of insole you need to get a higher heel. When you put this back on top, it will feel seamless inside your boot. And that's what you're going for. You don't want to feel these ledges and changes during the fit. Allen wrench. So this is going to become your best friend if you have inline skates. Everything from taking the wheels on and off to doing canting adjustments, which usually exist in the Rollerblade brand at least. You are going to use this Allen key Always keep it with you when you're skating, because if your wheels want to come off, you're going to need to make sure you can keep tightening things down. Everything is adjustable according to the weather, right? Let's talk about the wheels themselves. I have a bearing inside this wheel, and you can choose whether you have high level or low level bearings. A low level bearing will be very slow to rotate, and it won't let you skate very fast when you first get up and go. You can also feel there's a lot more resistance if you have a low level bearing, and some people want that. If you feel that you want that smooth glide that you get on the ice, get the more expensive bearings. Completely worth it. With wheels, it depends on the surface that you're skating on. If you get to be on really hard concrete or tennis court, that green top is the absolute best, because you also have the fence to hang on to when you're working on skills. But if you're on very, very hard terrain, you're going to use a wheel that's a little bit softer rubber, in order to hang on to it and not slip all the time. If you happen to be on blacktop, rough pavement, you might want a slightly harder wheel so that you can hang on, because that pavement in the summertime is going to start heating up. If you have soft wheels on soft pavement, again, you're just sluggishly trying to skate along. Okay. We have the same issues at the ice arena. Hard ice, soft ice, and how sharp to make your blades, right? My front and back wheel are smaller. My center two wheels are larger, since we're not doing this in the chassis on this particular skate. That way I can still have that rocker ring we talked about. If you do it this way, I highly recommend that you start out with the front wheel and back wheel only 4 millimeters smaller, just 4, than the center wheels. And the reason for this is, at the radius, it's only going to be a difference of 2 millimeters. And that way you're not going to feel the wheels going clunk, 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 clunk. It's just going to smoothly rocker back and forth. From there, you can determine whether you want a little bit more turn or less. You can buy these wheels in every size you want. So you'll take a look at what the maximum size is that will fit inside the chassis, and then take your front and back wheel and make them smaller. You certainly don't want them getting stuck in here. There was a pretty brilliant design years ago from a company called Switch It. And they had an inline skate that the chassis would slide off, and you can switch it out to what would normally be a hockey blade. So I had a machine company manufacture a set for me to match a pair of skates that I used to have when I skated with Ice Capades. And the skates I had were stilts, and they were company property, so I didn't get to keep them at the end of that tour. And I realized while I was home, I really missed having them. So I went to a machine shop and said, hey, can you make me a pair of these, but with this Switch It component, so that I have a choice of being on inline or ice with my stilt skates. So they did. We took a hockey boot, because it would have a stronger base to it than the figure boot over time. Nice little hinge mechanism, seat belt at the top. You know, seat belts, you gotta buckle up for safety. And it's about 18 inches off the ground. And then when you add the component, I end up a few more inches up in the air. So these have been in all kinds of parades and ice performances over the years. They've taken quite a beating. So now I just use them for cleaning the gutters on the deck, high stuff in the house that I can't reach.